Hi guys, it's Afi here. Hope everyone's well and welcome back to another Gran Turismo video. So we've got some really good daily races here, one of them being Daily Race C, Group 3 cars. I normally prefer the Group 4 cars, but I thought I'll give it a go with the Group 3. So really good track here. We've got Monza. Puts a lot of people off just because of what happens to their driver rating, so it's known to absolutely ruin everyone's driver rating. But hey ho, might as well give it a go because you do get really good races here. So decided to use the Corvette. It's a well balanced car in the straights and the corners. Not overly happy with the qualifying time, but we qualified P2 in this race. We've got Chris up front, so into the first corner. Doesn't really go defensive and absolutely send it in the first corner, and that is just a textbook move. Got my braking spot on there, and Chris is probably just being a bit overcautious into turn 1, but if there's a gap there you need to go for it, and in this case it's definitely paid off. So he's still got the slipstream. I'm just gonna go semi-defensive. He doesn't really try anything there. Just want to make sure I hit the apexes into these corners. So I'm just sort of sizing him up. I mean, I'm sort of gaining small amounts on every single corner. Very early to say. He could easily be on hard tyres. I don't know at this stage. So if you're normally starting at the front, the best options would be to use the mediums. You want to be using those till sort of lap 5 or lap 6, and then you have to put your mandatory hard tyres on, or you get, I think, a minute penalty, which is definitely not worth it. So looking at the radar, he absolutely gets his braking wrong. It's either he gets his braking wrong, or he gets 2 wheels on the grass. So he drops down to P6, and suddenly I've not even completed lap 1. I've got 1.3 seconds lead. Now that's a big margin to have in lap 1. He's just outside the slipstream. So long race like this where there's around 10 laps, so I think this is around 25 minutes a race. You really need to sort of minimize the fighting, especially early on in the race. You sort of need to work together. So hard on the brakes. I was a bit scared going on top of the grass, and I sort of adjust the steering wheel a little bit there, and I just sort of overcook it on the first corner. But again, that's the advantage of having such a big gap between yourself and P2. So nothing's really changed so far. Quite a lonely race, no real pressure. I could possibly start thinking about saving and managing my tyres. Fuel is not an issue. You've got plenty of fuel, so you could definitely push as much as you can. But as you can see, the gap is 2 seconds now, so I'm just trying to think about tyre management here. Maybe come in at end of lap 6, which gives me a few laps on the hard tyres. So the hard tyres are not really great here. It's more of a track where you really need a good exit, so you get good momentum on the straights to build your advantage. So I've got Kane here in P2, so he's not a real threat. I'm sort of monitoring the gap as the race goes on, and I feel like in each corner I am gaining a few tenths of a second in each corner, and that may be because they're probably battling quite hard from P2 onwards. So approaching end of lap 2, I actually did this daily race, well, all of the daily races actually on Thursday, but it's really hard to sort of edit, do the voiceover, upload it when you've got a full-time job. I'm definitely starting to enjoy doing YouTube a little bit more. I mean, we've got great drivers in the UK. We've got Steve, we've got Ollie, we've got a few others as well. So they're definitely setting the benchmark for us or for the rest of us to sort of catch up. I feel like I definitely have to improve in terms of my qualifying and my race pace. So we just skip ahead. We're on lap 4 at the moment, so the gap is almost 4 seconds, so no pressure. We just go through the Lesmos, and talking about consistency, here it goes. Absolutely big. So I literally destroy the lead that I have, and Kane literally probably driving past with a massive smile on his face. So I couldn't even restart the race. I got myself on the track and I literally spun out again and ended up finishing the lap, or I should say the race, in like P9 or P10, and it's just absolutely ruined my rating. So going over to race 2, we ended up obviously going to a lower ranking lobby. My SR had a massive beating, so it was really important that, you know, put my head down, get some good results to build up my SR again. So qualified P1, obviously, with the lobby. I think my SR rating went down to C from S. So again, this is one of those tracks which either absolutely ruins your rating, but you do get some fun races in the lower rank lobbies. But for me, it's all about having a little bit of fun. I mean, I do take it seriously, but you sort of need to enjoy playing the game rather than, you know, focusing on content. So you just obviously need to enjoy the game, which I think everyone would agree to. I mean, at the moment, GT Sport, it's pretty much finished, isn't it? I mean, the game's been out for a healthy amount of years now. It's definitely approached the end of its life. Everyone's sort of keeping their eye out for Gran Turismo 7. I am definitely just using this as a platform just to improve my driving, and then when Gran Turismo 7 comes out, sort of focus on it, get better. I don't think there'll be many differences in terms of how the cars feel. It's always sort of progressed consistent way, which is always a good thing, especially if you're jumping into a new game. So back to the race, just approaching end of lap 1. As you can see, the gap is 3 seconds. So let's sort of walk you through a typical lap at Monza. So you want to sort of point the car, or keep the car as straight as you can into turn 1. You want to go hard on the brakes on the 150 board, hard on the brakes, and you want to sort of ease off the brakes, and you want to hit the chicane, be really patient on the gas, and then full throttle out. So just approaching turn 3, the fast sweeping right, you want to be as close as possible to the white line on the right. You want to brake just as you see the orange cones, hard on the brake, but you want to sort of gradually take your foot off the brake so you don't upset the car. So you get a bit of oversteer out of turn 3, and half a brake, so you don't want to brake too hard here going into the Lesmos. Avoid the green stuff on the left. You want to take sort of ride over the chicane just to get maximum momentum over into turn 6. So approaching turn 7, Ascari, the famous Ascari, you want to sort of just brake before the 100 mark board. You want to ride those curbs, upshift to gear 4, so you get good momentum, so you don't get a snap of oversteer. So just adjusting my brake balance back to 0 as we'll be coming into the pits at the end of this lap. So just approaching back markers, just finishing lap 5. We've got a solid lead. We've got everything to lose if we can't bring this home. So luckily the back marker goes into the pits, and so do I. No need to refuel, have to go on the hard tyres or else we'll get a massive penalty. So the Frenchman also comes into the pits in P2. Surprisingly, he actually had the hard tyres on, which means in his last stint he'll be using the mediums. I'm not too concerned because I think he'll come out in traffic. Plus, to gain 6-7 seconds within 4 laps, it's really difficult unless I make a massive mistake. So, managed to get rid of this back marker, so I've got no distractions. I've got another Brit in P2, but I think he's yet to pit. So with my fresh tyres, I don't think he'll be able to catch up with me. So lap 6, we've got another 4 laps to go. Definitely a win here, increase my SR rating, which will just take me up to a slightly a better lobby, maybe for some better races. I mean, it's great to win, but when you're leading the whole race and you've got sort of no one to overtake, it does get a little bit boring. I would definitely prefer to maybe start mid-pack. Gives you a few opportunities to overtake and play around with the different strategies. I mean, there's no right or wrong choice. I mean, if you're starting probably P8 onwards, the ideal strategy would be to start on mediums. If you're starting at the back, definitely I would recommend using the hards, as you won't really be able to utilise the medium tyres. So just coming towards the end of lap 6, we've got the Frenchman who's in P2. I had a gap of 6.57 seconds before we came into the pits. Now it's 3.7 seconds, so it just shows you that he's actually driven really well the mediums, and it's sort of really half the gap that he had. But going towards the final lap, I reckon if the race was a couple of more laps longer, we'd definitely be able to get a bit closer. So literally just on the last lap, don't want to take any more risks, just need to bring it home, need to get these good finishes so I move up the ratings. Generally speaking, I think the lockdown has made a lot of Gran Turismo drivers a lot quicker. I mean, every single lobby that you go to, I mean, people actually are quite good compared to what they were before. I think a lot of people are investing on steering wheels just because, I mean, you could get yourself a G29 if you're in the UK as little as sort of £200, £250. You get second-hand ones for like £100, which will really improve your driving and probably gain a couple of seconds. Like, I use a Logitech G29, and I just think it's really good for how much it's worth. I wouldn't dream about playing Gran Turismo in a controller. I probably wouldn't even be able to. So yeah, just driving with this game, it's just, everyone's just improved massively because of the lockdown. So finished the race, 5.5 seconds at the end, which is not that bad, I guess. So, but most importantly, we won the race. So race 3, we move up into a slightly better lobby. We've got the Spaniard who's actually done a really good time of 46.3. That's a serious time. He's 700th of a second quicker than me in qualifying. I wouldn't even know where I could find so much time. So I think he's definitely better than a driver rating of B and SR of B. So he's probably had a few eventful races before this. It's good to race against Chris again. I know he had a blunder in our race 1 where he just went over Ascari, just literally running wide into the gravel. So it's good to race against him. He's fractionally quicker than me in qualifying, so he'll definitely be wary of me into turn 1. So I'm sure he's probably learned his lesson and probably be a bit defensive going into turn 1. So similar times on the grid, around 300th of a second between P to P10. So I want to stick to using the medium compounds for the start of the race. Definitely think that's the best way. I'm just nervous about the Spaniard. I've got a feeling he might start in the hard compound. So if he does start in the hard compound, you definitely want to overtake him before he starts holding you up. But we'll see how the race plans out. I'm the only driver in the grid with the driver rating of A, so the pressure is on. So we've got Chris, who's in P2, so just wondering how he's gonna take the start. I don't think he's gonna be cautious. I would think that he would probably wanna go for a move into turn 1 and overtake the Spaniard, because he knows once he pulls away it'll be very hard to catch him. But these are all assumptions. We'll see how the race goes. I reckon everyone's pretty quick here, so you don't really want to make any sort of mistakes going into turn 1, so just try to keep it clean. So just want to stay as close as possible to Chris, stay in his slipstream. I know I gained quite a lot in race 1, so I've got a feeling that he may be driving it in automatic. So just heading into turn 1, he goes semi-defensive as I expected. He probably knew that I might try going for a move again like in race 1. So everything so far so clean, no drama at the back. We've got the Portuguese in P4, so he's sticking very close to us. So I'm just having a look on the outside of Chris to see if there's any possible move there. No, he gets the braking spot on, runs a little bit wide, which gives me a bit of momentum. So the Spaniard actually makes a massive mistake, ends up losing 2 positions, and suddenly he's down in P3. So it's a bit of a deja vu moment going into race 3. So it feels a bit like race 1 at the moment. So I just overcook it going into coming out of turn 5, which gives me bad momentum down to Ascari. So I've got a little bit of pressure from P3, but luckily I've still got Chris's slipstream, so he gets the braking quite good. Again, I haven't really sort of been behind anyone in these races, so I'm just misjudging my braking zones, because I do have to take into consideration that I'll be carrying more speed from the slipstream. So I've got a really bad drive through Ascari. The Spaniard on the outside, that's actually a very, very good move. There's actually loads of grip on the outside, so he takes P2, but I've got his slipstream. I'm just a bit too close to have that run on him into turn 1, so I'll stick behind him, just giving him a little bit of a bump draft and pull out just to see if he'll brake a bit too early. Just going into turn 1, and I've got a feeling that he's driving without the radar on, because it's actually quite suicidal to race any race without having the radar on. So he clearly didn't know that I was on the outside, so there's a slight bit of contact. Luckily we both didn't get any penalties. I'm just having a look here. Again, he sort of just takes the corner as if I wasn't there, so I was a bit conscious of that. I just managed to pull out. I feel like I'm definitely quicker than him at this stage of the race, but I got a feeling that I'm just using my tyres a bit too much compared to the rest of them. So it's still anyone's win. Top 4 definitely in a chance to get the victory, but it's very early, you see, it's only lap 2. Anything could happen. So just going towards Ascari, I definitely think I sort of got the braking zones really spot on. I feel like I'm gaining so much time on the braking points. So just looking up front, I can see Chris and the Spaniard having a little bit of a fight. Not really sure why. Spaniard definitely a bit aggressive there. So into Parabolica, Chris is still on the lead. I run a bit wide, have to come off the throttle, which automatically gives a really good run for the Portuguese driver. So luckily I've still got the slipstream, so he tries to pull out to overtake, but he just doesn't have that momentum. So just side to side going into turn 1, who's going to brake latest. Again, he just drives into me, and if someone has the radar on, they'll be able to see that there's someone next to them. But quite thankful there's no penalties, which is actually quite surprising. So I'll go on the outside here, which gives me the inside going into turn 3. I've got more than half a car length beside him. Surely he's going to see me. No, he drives into me, and I get a penalty, which I really don't understand. He literally cut the corner, gains at least half a second advantage, and doesn't get a penalty. Again, this is just highlighting the whole penalty problem with Gran Turismo Sport. So I'm serving my half a second penalty here. I lose P3, and all that hard work just gets undone. So sitting in P4 now, I've got a good lead for myself to P5. I'm starting to lose any sort of chance of getting the victory here, but it's never over till the race finishes. So I just need to get my head down. I know I've definitely got the pace to catch them at least, but it's going to be a bit difficult because I'm not in the slipstream to the Portuguese up front in P3. So I can see someone's got a penalty. It's actually the Spaniard. I think he's got a 1.5 second penalty. So he's definitely got something in for Chris, which is a bit unfair because Chris is actually quite a decent driver. So everyone's weaving, trying to get as much of a slipstream as they can. Just gonna head into turn 1, and I brake really well here. Need to brake really hard. I've actually gained half a second just coming out of turn 1. So someone else has got a penalty now. Just trying to have a look who's actually got it. So Chris. So he's probably just cut the corner fractionally for him to get half a second penalty. So I know the Spaniard and Chris, once they serve their penalty, they'll be sort of very close to me. So the race is not over just yet, and just to spice things up, the Portuguese gets half a second penalty. So all 3 has got a penalty. Just trying to take it easy through the Lesmos. The last thing I want is to get a penalty myself. It's a proper penalty fest up front. So everyone will be serving their penalties, and somehow I ended up just overtaking everyone. Luckily there was a bit of a gap where I could just go past P1. Honestly, it just felt like a scene from the Fast and the Furious. So this is just a great example of why you shouldn't quit a race to the checkered flag. So definitely need to take my own advice. So at this point I'm just actually quite happy that I'm in P1. Just saw a slight glimpse there of someone having a penalty. I thought it's the Portuguese, but it's not. I think it's a Spaniard of Chris. So I've not really spoken much about this Portuguese driver. He's actually really quick. He's less than half a second behind me. He's got slipstream, and he's definitely gonna try something going into turn 1. So I'm just watching him here. I'm gonna go defensive. I don't think he's got the momentum to properly overtake me. So we're side by side, braking really hard here. I get the braking right. He sort of sticks beside me. I have to give him room, and that's actually a really good overtake. Fair play to him. He sort of gives me a little thank you by putting his indicators on. I still got a good one at him, so I'm just sort of on the outside. So it's gonna just literally be a game of who brakes the latest. But I'm a bit wary. I don't really want to cause a collision, so I'll back out. I just sort of want to follow him. But he's just got really good drive through the exits. I definitely think at the start of the race I was just pushing too much. But fair play to him. I definitely think that at the start he was definitely sitting back just watching me and Chris and the Spaniard fight. So the real advantage is right now. I mean, he's just sort of pulling away with so much ease, and just goes to show how much I've taken out my tyres in the first few laps. So really out the slipstream here. So my only chance would be to stay as close as possible and get some fresh tyres on and see if I could just attack him with a new set of hard tyres. So I'm not a massive fan of the hard tyres. I do a lot better on the mediums, as I believe everyone else does as well. But hopefully he's not that really good with the hard compounds either. So just skipping ahead into lap 6, we both come into the pits. No need to refill, there's plenty of fuel available, so we both go on the hard tyres. I had a funny feeling that the Spaniard might have been on the hard tyres at the start, but thank God he hasn't, because he'll be just stupidly fast in the last stint. But I still think if he hasn't made that mistake at the start, he would have definitely been able to pull away from the rest of us. So it just goes to show you just need to sort of drive consistently. I mean, any sort of mistake, especially on a track like this where there's loads of straights, it could cost you one small mistake out of the corner, could cost you at least half a second, just because the straights are so long. So the Portuguese, 2 seconds lead. He's sort of definitely driving away to the distance. I don't think I've got the pace with the hard compound to really catch him. So for me right now, I just want to bring the car home. I don't really want to make any more mistakes or get a penalty. Keeping a close eye on the Spaniard, because I know he's quick, and I'm still surprised why he's not really showing his true pace. So I'm actually quite confused, because his sort of qualifying time is so good, so you can't really do a time like that and not sort of bring it towards the race. So he's still got the fastest lap of the race, but I was able to sort of match that. So both our best times are 1:48.6. He's done a 1:48.646. So literally minimum margin against the fastest time. So the gap comes down to a second. I definitely feel like he's a lot quicker than me through Parabolica. So, and that's a crucial corner, because that will literally give him so much momentum and slipstream to dive bomb into turn 1. So just approaching obviously the first corner. We're on lap 8, so literally 2 more laps to go. Looking at the grid, we've got Chris, who's in P4, so he's lost a lot of time fighting with the Spaniard. I actually spoke to him after the race. The Spaniards actually took him out twice during the race, which is a bit unfair. But I guess that's racing for you. So this was actually a really fun race. I wish it was a bit longer. It would have been nice where you might need to pit twice, and it would be probably interesting if they allowed the softer compound as well. So, I mean, Gran Turismo are probably not going to bring loads of updates on this. I think that my main focus is on Gran Turismo 7 right now, but the daily races have improved massively. I mean, we've got Monza, Group 3, Race C. We've also got Fuji Raceway, which is also another great combination. And for the first time in ages, we've got a rally race in Race A. So, really good set of races. I think they're probably taking more feedback from Gran Turismo players, which is also a good thing to see. So, as long as they sort the penalty system out going forward, which is probably the biggest concern in the game, it's probably put a lot of sim races off. I mean, we've got loads of people moving to iRacing, which I definitely am quite intrigued. Definitely want to give that a go. But right now, I just sort of want to focus on Gran Turismo and hopefully just get a bit better in terms of performance and qualifying and race time. So 2 laps to go, just currently on lap 9. The gap has come down to 1.3 seconds from P1 to myself, so it's probably made a little bit of a mistake. He's still sort of steadily maintaining the gap, I'm still a bit scared that the Spaniard might sort of close the gap towards the last lap. I'm definitely not pushing as much as I can, and just don't want to ruin these hard tyres, even though there's loads of performance left on these hard tyres. So realistically, I reckon these tyres can do sort of 7 to 8 laps on it, but you really need the mediums on just for maximum performance. So into Ascari, gap is 1.4 seconds. So everyone sort of settled down. Everyone sort of getting the braking points right. I just need to make sure the gap doesn't come below 700 of a second to myself and the Spaniard, because if he's got the slipstream, he's definitely going to go for a move to the last lap. So just approaching the final lap. There's no real drama in the second part of the race. So everyone's just holding position. The Corvette's quite a very nice car to drive actually. I wasn't really convinced at the start of it, but it's a well balanced car. I mean, if you think about the Corvette in real life, it's just full of power and oversteering. But it's a great car. It's really good on the straights, really good on the corners. It doesn't snap at you. Very predictable. So it's definitely a good car for Group 3 cars. So P1 sort of out of the question at the moment. I mean, I don't think I've got a good chance of getting victory. The gap suddenly just comes down to less than half a second. So I've just made a slight mistake in turn 3. So I just want to get the Lesmos right, have a good exit. And he gets a really good exit, so he's in the slipstream right now, and I've got a feeling he's going to go for a move in Ascari, so I'm just keeping an eye on the radar. I go sort of semi-defensive. He doesn't really go for a move, he's probably just going to hold it off to the straight. He gets a bit too close, probably has to come out the throttle a bit, which gives me a bit of breathing room, so I'm just going to stay to the right. But he's just too far back, so I'm just trying to weave just to cut the slipstream. So just into Parabolica. Don't think he's going to go for a move. So I really thought he'll be a bit closer than that, but I think he's just made a slight mistake. So just approaching end of the lap, and that's a P2 for me. So really happy with that result. It was definitely a really good race. You can see Chris there in P4. I mean, at the start he was right with us, and that's just an example of what the penalty system can do for you. I mean, if you look at the grid, every single one of us has had a penalty, which I think is impossible not to have a penalty in a track like this. So thank you so much for watching, guys. You guys just watching the video helps massively. Please leave a like, and most importantly, subscribe. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time. Thank you so much, guys. Take care. Bye.